Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to this final segment of Morning Break. It's now time to go and see what Sister Sidra Zaidi has to say.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sidra and I'm your life coach. This week we are talking about self-worth and how much value we give ourselves. The most accurate measure of our self-worth is to see how we treat ourselves. Most people want to be treated with love, respect and care from other people. Most people want to be treated with love, care and respect from other people. Unfortunately, they don't really do the same for themselves. Because when we want to be appreciated, we are actually relying on someone else to be in appreciation. And when that doesn't happen, the unworthiness kicks in and we don't feel good enough. This could be a pattern since our childhood, because as kids, we've been relying on our parents, our peers, our teachers to help us feel good. When they appreciate us, we feel good. And that carries on as in adulthood. So the best way to feel valuable, to feel respected, and to feel cared for is to actually do exactly the same for yourself. Now, this week's tip of the week is actually an affirmation. So next time you find yourself in a situation where you're feeling unloved, unworthy, say this to yourself: I choose to value myself and I'm worthy of all the ease, joy and glory. I choose to value myself and I'm worthy of all the ease, joy and glory. The more you say it, the more you believe it and the better you will feel. Good luck with that one. And if you want any information or any help, please drop me an email and I would be happy to answer them. Assalamu alaikum.
So this concept of sort of self-appreciation is something that I think is really important to have, particularly in our community. I think Sidra's completely right where she says that people often say, you know, worrying about your own happiness, putting yourself first, etc., is selfish, and all you're there to do is serve other people. And of course, I'm not saying that's completely wrong. We have a responsibility towards other people, but we also have a responsibility towards ourselves. And I think you can put yourself first without being selfish, because what that means is making sure that the reason why you're putting yourself first is for the right reason. For example, if you're putting yourself first because you need to better yourself with your education, with your knowledge of your deen, you know, you may need to do it because you need to put your family first rather than your friends, for example. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
And also, I think you know, I think Sister Sidra has already said this before, where she says that, you know, you first have to you know, be what you want to be yourself, and then you can instill it in others. So, you know, if you want others to be happy, you have to be happy and content with your life and with yourself, and then you'll be able to sort of emit that onto someone else. And so I totally agree with what she's saying.
I really liked particularly what she said about not waiting for other people to appreciate you, because I think that's something that's very important amongst human beings. Obviously, we are almost created to be appreciated, aren't we? We love people knowing that we've done something. That's why we do things, because we like seeing that reaction on people's faces. But I think it's really important to make sure that if you're doing things for the right reason, which ultimately should be because you want to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it's not so much about the appreciation that you would get from people around you. And I think inevitably that will come anyway, when people will be proud of you for doing the right thing and, you know, staying focused and doing what pleases Allah.
Yeah, totally. I think definitely, you know, we can definitely, I always find interesting what Sidra has to say, and I think it's something that furthers me in making myself that, like what we were talking about a few episodes ago about mastering yourself. And I think that's something that that definitely can make us go forward. Okay, now it's time for Fact of the Week. So Hamera, what interesting fact have you picked out for us today?
Okay, so this week I've got something, Fact of the Week is something that probably won't actually necessarily apply to us, but I just thought it was quite interesting for people to know. Astronauts, when they go out into space, their vertebrae actually becomes 2 inches taller. So they inevitably, what happens is that they, whatever height they are, they become 2 inches taller when they go out into space. I thought this was really interesting because what happens is, if you think of your backbone, where it starts from and it goes all the way up, your spinal cord, for example, it's basically like a spring.
Yeah.
And right now, because gravity actually is pushing down on us when we're on Earth, then we are, for example, however much you are, 5'6", for example, and then when you go up into space, because the gravity isn't pushing down on us anymore, your vertebrae becomes like a spring, and it has the capability to just almost stretch out like that. So most humans would become at least 2 inches taller when they're out in space. So they must have to kind of bear that in mind when they're designing suits and clothes, etc., because it means they're going to be quite a bit taller. Don't you think that's really interesting?
Yeah, I mean, I had absolutely no idea that that when you went out to outer space that you grew 2 inches. So they must, have special suits for that. But also, just generally, I think when they're in the station, they don't wear their suits all the time. They sort of wear normal clothes. So obviously, they must, must take, I don't know, extra bigger clothes, or maybe they, don't know, actually. That's quite an interesting fact. I find that quite amazing.
I find it fascinating that a person's body would actually change the moment they leave Earth, and that's amazing.
Definitely, yeah. It just shows, though, that, we're so kind of, about the world and on Earth, and actually there's a world much bigger than Earth, and actually everything, not just our physically, but probably mentally also, if we kind of explored that, the universe, so to speak, everything about us probably changed, not just physically slightly, but probably mentally as well, the fact that we would be just in awe of what it was like out there. Okay, now it's time to see Humaira's 5th instalment of her Ziara video journal. Let's take a look.
We are now beside Sayyida Ruqayya, and we just managed to go to the Dari and pay our salams.
السلام عليك يا بنت أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب. السلام عليك يا بنت فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين.
Okay, so we are here literally by the side of me. Here on the right is Sayyida Ruqayya, where Sayyida Ruqayya was buried. We just went in for a majlis. We managed to go to the Dari and pay our salams as well. The majlis is obviously very sad, picturing how a young girl felt when she found out that her father had been brutally murdered. So that was very emotional. We managed to do Matam as well, because we had brother Hussein Virji and another brother who's actually come from London in a different ziyarat group reciting for us. So as you can see, we're walking through the streets now. Again, Sayyida Ruqayya is on my right hand side. It's very much probably like it would have been back in the day, in the sense that people are selling fruit here, selling shoes there, and so you get a feel of what it would have been like for Bibi Zainab alayhi salam, Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam. Obviously what we're missing is that hatred that people had for them and what they had been through. So it's very hard for us to perhaps picture how hard the situation must have been for them. But being able to retrace their steps has been a really interesting experience.
We are gathered here in the heavenly shrine of Imam Musa ibn Ja'far and Imam Muhammad al-Jawad salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhima. And I'm sure you'll all agree with me about the heavenly atmosphere that we have here in this shrine, having just recited Salat al-Fajr. And those of you who've been around mosques all across the world, I don't know how many of you have had as pleasant a Salat al-Fajr as this. And it really goes to show you the reverence and the strong energy that surrounds this place. We have neglected the role of Imam al-Kadhim and Imam al-Jawad. As in, if you were to look at many Muslims in the world today, irrespective of what background they come from, they will say to you, I do not know a single story about Imam al-Kadhim and I do not know a single story about Imam al-Jawad. That to me, in one angle, is a shame. And another angle is a disgrace. These are the two words I use, shame and disgrace. Shame because at the end of the day, it's benefit for your life why these people lived. It was for you. Now they've passed away. Whether you follow what they follow or you don't, it's not going to benefit them. It's really for your benefit. And a disgrace really, because in the 21st century, every language has now spoken about their teachings. If you don't understand Urdu, there's Arabic. If you don't understand Arabic, there's Persian. If they don't understand Persian, there's English. For a person not to be able to read about these imams and not know about their life is really disgraceful in our generation. And it's vital that we revitalize ourselves.
Wow, your journey just gets, more and more amazing when I see it week by week. What was the journey like from Sham to Kazmin? Because we were not necessarily able to see that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we weren't really able to film. One in Syria, in the actual hotel, they weren't too happy with us filming. So we couldn't necessarily document the journey from, in terms of how people were feeling. But yeah, when we got to the Syria airport, we were all quite excited about the fact that we obviously, I think it's a particular honour to be able to go to Kazmin because of the fact that it's dangerous right now and lots of people don't bother. And I know, people who've been to Iraq and they don't even get a chance to go because even, for example, taxi drivers over there, etc., they're not too comfortable driving to that area. Kazmin and Samarra are probably the most dangerous ones. And so when we got to but we actually flew into Baghdad airport. And it was quite late at night and we were all really worried that we weren't going to be able to make it to the Haram before it closed. I think that we actually got to our hotel about 10:30 and the Haram is supposed to close at 11, and so it was something like that. But alhamdulillah, when we got there we managed to speak to them and they kept it open for us, and once you're there then they're quite relaxed about it. So it was really nice in the sense that when we actually got to the Dhari itself, there was hardly any people there, so it's almost just for our group.
Wow, yeah, that's amazing. And it looked like that, especially I think you were doing Fajr Salah, and just felt like, it was so amazing how you guys are all in a line, and it just looked really, really beautiful.
It was so beautiful, and unfortunately, as you can see, unfortunately, the Haram isn't packed, and I don't know whether that's due to danger, etc. But it was fortunate for us because it felt like we had the place to ourselves, and it was, Fajr at any of the Harams is beautiful. You can always hear the birds chirping, and as you can see, the actual Haram is beautiful itself. And to have two Imams as well, Imam al-Kadhim and Imam al-Jawad there, is such an honour. And alhamdulillah, we had a chance to sit down with Sayyid Ammar and him really speak to us about Imam Musa al-Kadhim's life and Imam al-Jawad, and how his presence was so powerful from such a young age. So it was a beautiful experience.
And after that, you actually then made your way to Samarra. But obviously, we were not able to capture that on camera because obviously the strict, regulations there, the fact that you cannot take any kind of electronic equipment there. What was it like when you went to Samarra?
I have to say, I thought Samarra was very different this time. Last time I went, it was on a Friday, and I guess because of Jummah, it was so busy. And we went through so much security, and there was women pushing, and because I was a group organizer, then we'd almost lost a woman in the process, so it was all a bit scary. This time there wasn't really anyone around, and so going through security was not too bad at all. There's still you still have very tight security. There's 3 or 4 checkpoints, and there's really no point in taking any sort of electronics in because you're just going to hold the group up. It's always boiling whenever you go to Samarra, and I think for me that always makes it even more powerful when you think about the heat that the Ahlul Bayt had to suffer, and how they were oppressed through all of that as well. But Samarra is sad every time you go, and it's so, for me, I still find it so shocking that someone would have the nerve to blow up any mosque, let alone a mosque where one of our imams is buried. To me, I don't really care what you think of our religion, but blowing up any sort of religious institution is just wrong. There's no discussion about that. And to go where one of our imams, alhamdulillah, Allah loves our imams and he would never let anything happen to them. Alhamdulillah, the actual burial place of the imam was not affected at all, which is very surprising considering the intensity of the bombs. One thing that I really liked about this time in Samarra is that they've actually put glass in each corner of where the bombs were placed. So when you actually sit in that corner, you can see the hole from where the bomb actually was blown up. And I don't like the act of what happened. What I like is the fact that we are remembering that, and it's almost like a symbol of protest, that you may have tried to blow this place up, but we're still coming here, and we are going to remember that you tried to blow that up, because obviously that must have hurt the imam of our time so much, and we need to remember that. We need to remember Samarra a lot more than we do.
And also, I think it's a lesson for Muslims to try and be unified in the fact that this was a great descendant of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and also the fact that what do we know about Imam Hassan Askari alayhi salam? And I'm pretty sure I've heard Sayyid Ammar talk about this, the fact that this is our duty. What was his life like? What about all the oppression? He was really oppressed. And of course, our 12th Imam, alayhi salam, is hugely oppressed. Even now, he is oppressed because he can't come out of his occultation. So I think definitely from what happened in Samarra, all Muslims need to take heed from that and understand that we really need to understand who these great people were and make sure that oppression needs to stop.
Absolutely, and I think if there's one thing that I would ask anyone who's watching this show today to do is really to go away and research the history of Samarra in terms of Imam al-Askari and our Imam as well, so that we can prepare for when he comes, because just the thought of someone hurting your father now is unbearable, and to think that someone dared do that in the time of our Imam is very upsetting. So we need to make sure that we know about these things.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I totally agree with that. Thanks a lot for that, and I look forward to the rest of your journey. Inshallah, next week we can catch more of Humaira's Ziyarah video journal.
Well, that brings us to the end of the show. So, as with every week, please email us with your comments or suggestions or anything you'd like to let us know about, even if it's ideas for future shows. We look forward to seeing you at the same time next week, inshallah, from both myself and Fatima. Assalamu alaikum.
Are actually relying on someone else to be in appreciation, and when that doesn't happen, the unworthiness kicks in and we don't feel good enough. This could be a pattern since our childhood, because as kids we've been relying on our parents, our peers, our teachers to help us feel good. When they appreciate us, we feel good. and that carries on as in adulthood. So the best way to feel valuable, to feel respected, and to feel self-worth, and how much value we give ourselves. The most accurate measure of our self-worth is to see how we treat ourselves. Most people want to be treated with love, respect, and care from other people. Most people want to be treated with love, care, and respect from other people. Unfortunately, they don't really do the same for themselves. Because when we want to be appreciated, we are
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to this final segment of Morning Break. It's now time to go and see what Sister Sidra Zaidi has to say.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sidra and I'm your life coach. This week we are talking about self-care is to actually do exactly the same for yourself. Now this week's tip of the week is actually an affirmation. So next time you find yourself in a situation where you're feeling unloved, unworthy, say this to yourself: I choose to value myself and I'm worthy of all the ease, joy and glory. I choose to value myself and I'm worthy of all the ease, joy and glory. The more you say it, the more you believe it, and the better you will feel. Good luck with that one. And if you want any information or any help, please drop me an email and I would be happy to answer them. Assalamu alaikum.
So this concept of sort of self-appreciation is something that I think is really important to have